The filing came out Friday. Luke, you've written the best piece on the news in it, but I want to start with the newest news, which are these actual texts that CNN has released. Let me read from some of them because I think it captures, as we described it, this panic that set in as their plan came to pass. This is Representative Barry Loudermilk. He writes this: "It's really bad up here on the Hill. They've breached the Capitol." Meadows writes, "POTUS is engaging." Loudermilk says, "Thanks. This doesn't help our cause." Republican Representative William Timmons: "The president needs to stop this ASAP." Meadows writes back, "We're doing it." Not clear what it is. Donald Trump Jr. "This is one you go to the mattresses on." Evidence he's seen The Godfather, I guess. "They will try to F his entire legacy on this if it gets worse." Reince Priebus: "Tell them to go home." One-time Chief of Staff Mark Mulvaney to Mark Meadows, then Chief of Staff: "Mark, he needs to stop this now. Can I do anything to help?" Luke Broadwater, your thought on what is revelatory and just how much they know that we don't always contemplate in our daily conversations. They know.
Yes. So, I mean, what you see here is a moment of the truth coming out, right? So they had played a dangerous game in the weeks before January 6th. They had spread the lie of widespread election fraud. They had angered a whole lot of people about a stolen election. And then on January 6th, when people are storming the Capitol, injuring police officers, people are dying on the Capitol grounds, they're saying, please make it stop. Please tell them to call it off. And so for that brief moment in time, you saw, I think, the truth come out on Capitol Hill in the ranks of the House Republicans. I do think what's important to note is the text you also highlighted, which is only a couple weeks later, Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying that she's in internal text messages with other members of Congress, and they are endorsing a plan for martial law. So even though she was terrified in the moment, it appears, when she heard gunshots on the floor or right by the floor of the House, and you did see a protester get shot and died there, a rioter get shot and died. You know, they're right back to it only weeks later. And so these text messages are revealing for how people react when they do see the truth of what's happening, but they quickly went back to their ways not long after.
The snafu for some of them may be, I hope we can still call it the long arm of the law. Here's Liz Cheney making abundantly clear she knows that they knew they were breaking the law.
The committee has obviously been focused very much, has got a tremendous amount of testimony and documents that I think very, very clearly demonstrate the extent of the planning and the organization and the objective. And the objective was absolutely to try to stop the count of electoral votes, to try to interfere with that official proceeding. And it's absolutely clear that they knew what they were doing was wrong. They knew that it was unlawful, and they did it anyway.
Now, again, Luke, we don't know everyone they've talked to, but at least one witness who's quoted in this filing, Ms. Hutchinson, makes clear that in Meadows' case, he knew that violence had been warned by the Secret Service, whose job it is to protect the president, his family, the vice president, and his family. So Secret Service had situational awareness, both at the Ellipse and the U.S. Capitol, that they were warned that the fake electors plot was unlawful. And this ties into some of the other evidence. Hannity saying, I know the general counsel will walk. Phil Rucker and Carol Leonnig reporting that Pat Cipollone and his deputies thought Trump might be charged that day. I mean, the text also reveal, because I think you had this perfect encapsulation of the problem for Kevin McCarthy isn't that he lies all the time, easier than most of us breathe. It's that he got caught telling the truth. And this is a perfect way to describe these texts as well. But the rub here may be their knowledge of criminality, no?
Yes, definitely. I mean, there are a couple major problems for House Republicans and the Trump White House out of these. One, as you mentioned, is the White House counsel's office warns them that this plan to use the fake electors is not legally sound. That's very similar to warnings that we saw in earlier filings, where even the architect of the plan, John Eastman, admits it's a violation of federal law. The other thing I think is really concerning is, we've known for some time that House Republicans were involved in sort of bogus legal challenges and spreading the big lie and the like. But at least I hadn't seen that they were involved in conversations about marching on the Capitol. And if you don't get all those people to move the 2 miles from the ellipse to the Capitol, there is no attack on the Capitol. And so you can see that both the committee and the Department of Justice are very interested in investigating how all these people got to the Capitol that day, who encouraged it, who knew about it, whether or not they encouraged them to commit violence. The very fact that you're putting a whole lot of angry people amassed at the Capitol trying to pressure members of Congress, I think is very concerning and something that I hadn't seen before, that the House Republicans were made aware that was part of the discussion, and that came out in this filing.
And Harry, just to follow up on that piece, it is the premeditation. And I think this was a question until it was answered, and now it's been answered in this filing. The violence was premeditated. The violence was known. It was discussed at the highest levels of the West Wing. There isn't anyone more senior than a White House chief of staff. That's it. That's it. And especially in the Trump White Houses, I think the record is clear that person was the only adult in the room when it was a White House chief of staff and a president. What does the premeditation, the knowledge of violence ahead of time, mean for everyone who had that knowledge, was in possession of the knowledge, and is testified to by witnesses now who have testified before Congress?
Yeah, at least the knowledge. So the first thing from the filing, it's a terrific filing, by the way, including the appendices, a lot more there than has been reported to date. Meadows is in the middle of everything, however crazy, however completely half-baked or quarter-baked. But your point really is the right one, because once we have knowledge of the violence, he is up to his neck in a potential conspiracy to obstruct the proceedings, because what's the point of the violence? It's to delay or hinder, and that's exactly what it did. So for that, he's all of a sudden in serious hot water, and the department, if it chose, could really put the screws to him. And he's also with the elector slates, and there's opinions here from the OLC that tell him you can't do it. That puts him in the soup for a potential conspiracy against the United States, a slightly different crime, 371, but knowing it's unlawful and pursuing it. So though he is right in the middle of everything, however crazy, but now he's really up to his eyebrows in 2 potential federal crimes, serious federal crimes that give a lot of time. We know he's susceptible, right? He started to cooperate and then backed off just at the prospect of a single year in prison. There could be much, much more leverage now brought against him with these new revelations. And
I want to read you his text exchange with Jim Jordan, Harry, because it sounds like a confession to what a federal judge in California described as likely felony crimes having been committed by John Eastman and Donald Trump in their conspiracy. So this is a text exchange from Jim Jordan to Mark Meadows. Jordan texts this, quote, on January 6, 2021, Vice President Mike Pence, as president of the Senate, should call out all electoral votes that he believes are unconstitutional as no electoral votes at all. Mark Meadows, quote, I have pushed for this. Not sure it's going to happen. Is that a confession to doing what that federal judge described as likely felony criminal acts?
Yeah, pretty close. And the push for this is in the filing. He goes to Stephen Engel, the head of the Office of Legal Counsel, and Engel says, get out of here. We're not in the business of telling the vice president when he's acting in the Senate what to do, much less doing it in 3 days. Go away. And he pursues it anyway. So he clearly knows it's unlawful, and that would be very strong. All these things happened, and it's all about intent. And when you know it's unlawful and you're pushing it, he's pushing on Georgia, we know. And by the way, many representatives, Scott Perry in Pennsylvania, we know, are now pushing it. That takes it over the line from, spitballing to really potential federal crime.